Hey, what's happening everyone? My name is Ryan, and today I wanted to show you how you can get a cinematic style night scene on a budget. Let's get into it. It's important in low budget filmmaking to write the script and the story around the resources that you have available to you. Now for me, I am filming a night scene, and to keep things simple, I decided to write the script about a guy who's working on his computer really late at night. Okay, so let's talk about our moonlight. For this, I used my Amaran 60X. It's bicolor, so I was able to set it to a cooler temperature to emulate our moon. Now, normally I would use our Aperture 120D or maybe even the Godox VL150, both brighter lights and would work really well, but to keep things simple and to keep things low budget, I decided to use the Amaran 60X, and this one goes for about $179. And it actually packs a lot of punch for how small it is. The light that you're seeing right now in the background, that's only at 20%, so it just goes to show you, you can get a lot of heat from something as small as this. Since the real moon would be high up in the sky, I decided to set my light on a C-stand and set that really high. The reason for this is because we need the light to spill through the blinds and give us those harsh shadows that we would see on the table. This really just elevates the scene and makes it feel a little bit more like a moonlit night scene. Now, if you don't have a C-stand, all you would need to do is set your tripod stand up high on a platform or something like that. As long as your light is higher in the sky than your subject, like the moon would, this would totally work. One thing I forgot to mention is that I'm using a camera that does pretty well in low light. It's the Sony FX3, and I'm shooting in their log profile, which is the S-Log3. There are a few other settings that I'm using that make it really easy for me to manipulate such a dark shot like this without breaking the image down too much. However, if you don't have access to a log profile on your camera, all you have to do is just make sure your light is really dialed in on your scene. Make sure to not use too much so you don't have hot spots. I would also recommend shooting in a neutral picture profile and turning down your contrast and saturation so that way you have full control over your image and nothing's baked in from the start. These are just my personal preferences. I definitely recommend going and testing these picture profile settings before going out and using them on a client project. If you'd like a deeper breakdown on the settings that I like to use for my videos, let me know in the comments below, but let's get back to the scene. After this, I added fake shears to the scene, and I just kind of bunched them up and taped them to the wall using gaffer tape. It's about $10 per yard. This is something similar to what we did on a TV commercial we filmed last year. Now, this was a much bigger budget and a much bigger of a production, so it just goes to show you that you never know when you can use these techniques, even on a production such as that commercial. So once our moonlight was all set up, I wanted to kind of control the shadows that were on me and bring those up just a bit. So for this, I decided to use my Ambit Full Tube Light. This thing's amazing, and I think I got it for about $52 on Amazon, although since then I think it's gone up just a little bit. I just stood this up on the table and faced it at a 45-degree angle to bounce off the white card onto the lit part of my face. This also helped to fill the rest of the room, bringing up the shadows just a bit, filling in the room as the moon would naturally. So once I had that set up, I wanted to motivate that lighting from lighting coming from the kitchen, and I could have just turned on the kitchen light. That would have worked out really great. However, I wanted to have full control over the intensity of the light and the warmth of this light. So I decided to put a practical light on the kitchen counter. I also put a dimmer switch on that and set it to a lower setting. After this, I wanted to motivate the lighting coming from the practical, so I decided to use my Amaran ALMX. This is a little tiny aperture light, and it's bicolor, so I just set it at its warmest setting. I just set that up on a suitcase that was on a chair, and I set it to my right, just a little bit behind me, so that it would emulate the lighting that would be spilling onto my shoulder from the practical light. Once I had all of my lighting set up, it was then time to fill in my face, and I used my laptop. I just looked up on Google the light gray color, and I put that up on my screen, and I used gray because I felt that white was a little bit too harsh on my face, and that really worked well. I had to take off my glasses because you could see the reflection in them, and it just kind of pulled me out a little bit. Now, this is a good example of writing your script to what you have available. So I'm trying to use as little lights as possible and stay on budget. So I just decided to use my laptop to light my face, and this worked out really well. You could do something similar with your phone. If you were writing the script to somebody being on their phone, this would also work really well. However, you would probably have to get the phone a little bit closer, and it would probably have to be a little bit tighter of a shot, being that your phone is not gonna be as bright as your computer screen. Now, once I had all of this lighting set up, I just wanted to add a little bit more depth, so I decided to spray in some haze. Now, I do this a lot in these filmmaking tutorials, and it's only because it's one of the least expensive things that you could do to elevate your film and get it to that next level of that film-like cinematic style look. I use my haze machine because that's all I have available to me, but you could certainly use aerosol. This stuff goes for about $35 for a 2-pack, very inexpensive, and it also works just as well. And here's the final look, starting with just the moonlight, then the light coming from my laptop, then our filler light, our practical light, and our motivated lighting, and finally our haze. This is just a simple breakdown. Of course, you can add a lot more to this and make it look even bigger. However, I find that in some cases, bigger is what's right for the film, but in most cases, if you can make it look great and it works well for the story, simple is the way to go. Well, that's gonna do it for me, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this one. I hope that this video inspires you, sparks some new ideas, and equips you to just go out and make your film. If you like this video or you learned something, please click the like button down below. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one. Laters.